Hi, this is Arthur Pearlie Martin, and I dropped in to say, will you give it up for God? What is it that's keeping you from just total surrender? Will you give it up for Jesus? Will you surrender it all for Jesus? I think about the prostitute, Mary. I think about the prostitute who gave it all up for Jesus, because you know that was her livelihood. When she gave up prostitution, that was her livelihood. And then she took the alabaster oil, which they said was like a year wages, and she poured it on his feet. She gave her all. She gave it all up, and she gave her all. And she poured it on his feet, and she sat at his feet. Will you give it all up for Jesus? Will you give up Jim for Jesus? Will you give up Judy for Jesus? Will you give it up, those fears? Will you give up that fear for God's love and replace it with God's love for you? Will you give it up for Jesus? You know that witch that followed the Apostle Paul in the book of Acts, proclaiming that he was an apostle? Well, when she got delivered, she gave it all up. She just began to follow after the Apostle Paul. And the musicians and everyone was angry at her because she had lost her demonic power. But what I'm saying is, she just pursued him and she followed him. The apostles, they gave it all. They gave up their professions. They gave up their livelihood. Luke gave up his medical practice to follow Jesus, and Matthews, and they gave up their fishing. That's how they made their living. They gave up their livelihood. They gave up everything that kept them from following after him to follow after him. Would you give it up for Jesus? What is it that's keeping you from following him? The rich young ruler said, well, I need to go. One of the guys said, I need to go back and bury my father first. And he said, well, let the dead bury the dead. Come on, you need to come and go with me. What is it that really keeps you from totally surrendering your all, your total, that just keeps us from just sitting at his feet, from saying, Lord, here I am? Is it those fears and those insecurities that makes you afraid to let go of your source, to take on God as your main provider, that he is your